Hello, this is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Today we're doing a video on repairing an antique teak chair with a broken tenon. Here's a picture of the chair. We have two of them in the shop. You can see one turned over on top of the other. We're going to be repairing the one that's upside down. In the picture on the top right, you can see the area that's damaged. Part of the leg is broken, and I do believe we have it. And you can see that it's held together by some wood pegs, which is a little unusual. Now, if this chair was from this country, that would mean it's really old, but it's not. It was made overseas, and they tended to use this type of joinery much later in time than we did. It also has cross brackets in the inside that are held together with flathead screws. And the best way sometimes to date a piece is if you could take a screw out and see how it's made. So my guess is this chair is maybe 50 to 80 years old, something like that. But it is a beautiful, beautiful wood. It's a beautiful piece. It's very strong. So we're going to put an effort into it and see if we can get this guy back together, back on his feet, and then back at the dining table where it belongs. When we took the chair apart, we found that the tenon was completely damaged on this part of the chair. So we took the seat off, put these parallel clamps on the bottom so we can stand it up and work on the end of the piece. Now on the left side, you can see the tenon that's in relatively good shape, not great shape. On the right side, you can see the tenon's basically all the way down. One of the things that weakened the tenon was the holes that were drilled for those little wooden pegs. They removed quite a bit of material that weakened the tenon joint, and they almost split on each of these tenons right where those holes are. Eventually, there wasn't enough material left for it to hold up to the stress, and it just broke itself right off. First thing we're going to do is clean up the end of this board. I'm going to use a small reciprocating saw, and I'm going to cut off the last little remnants of the tenon that's there so that I have a flat surface to start working on. It'll also let me see a little bit of a line as to where the tenon needs to go back into place. I could tell that just by looking at the end of the chair. It's a little bit hard to see from right here, but we're going to cut this off, and then what I'm going to do is skip forward to the layout of the block. So jumping forward, I have all those little pieces cut out of the way. I have my little oak block right here, and then all I'm going to do is put it in place where I left a little bit of the other old tenon sticking up so I can see right where it goes. And I'm going to mark this out with a Sharpie. Now, it's kind of rare to use a Sharpie during furniture repair, but I'm working on the end grain, and all this is going to be cut out. And I want a good dark line that I could see so that I can make sure I don't overcut this piece right here. So right there, I could see that this is where my new tenon's going to go back into place. And now I'm going to do is start scoring out the border of it. And to do that, we're going to use a Dremel, my trusty Dremel, back into play. And we're going to crank him up and cut some teak and create some smoke in the shop, which is always a lot of fun. Once I have the outline done, we're going to skip forward, and you're going to see we're going to drill it out and chisel it out. So let's move us forward right there. Okay, we've jumped forward. We have the outline of the new tenon cut out with the Dremel. We're going to take a small drill bit and just start hogging out some of that wood. Now with repairs like this, I start small. I'm going to use a smaller drill bit. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to make small cuts with my chisel, and I'm going to try not to cause any damage that's going to make me do more work trying to repair it. So take your time, small cuts, small little bits here and there. Once you get it defined, you'll be in much better shape. The other thing you need to find out is how the wood's going to behave. How's it going to chisel? How hard is it? Is it brittle? Those are all very important things. Now I'm taking my chisel out. I'm making sure it's the right width, and we're going to begin right on that front edge and just come down right along that drill hole I got and square off that rounded circle. And I'm going to work my way all the way through the side of this. I'm going to go down as far as I drill down, and then we're going to just chisel a little bit out at a time. And you can see me just kind of popping it out right there. And that's really all it takes. Drill a little bit, chisel a little bit, drill a little bit, chisel a little bit. until you got it to the depth that you want to be. I wouldn't drill it down too deep at once. You definitely want to go in small batches, and that'll make sure that you don't take out more material than you need to. Now we're jumping forward again. We have some wood hogged out. We're going to go to our larger diameter drill bit and we get a little test. We also need to check the depth on it. We don't want to drill our hole too deep. So we're going to measure it against the wood. I put that piece of tape on my drill bit at the correct depth. I like to leave it as a flag because as I get close to the wood, it actually helps blow some of the chips off to the side. I'm going up and down, but I'm also using my drill bit like a mill by going sideways. Now we're going to speed up the video just to make this part go faster. I wish I could work this fast, just not ever going to happen. And then we're going to slow it down right here because we're going to show you how it can just go sideways on you in a minute. I'm just chiseling in one direction right there. And as you can see, the back of the chair just falls right out. So this happens quite a bit with old pieces. They've got weak points and you're banging on them and things just pop and break where you don't expect it. So we'll fix that as we continue on. I taped the piece to my chair to keep track of it. And now what I'm going to do is take my block of wood and just kind of push it in there and test fit it. So I have to do a little bit more work with it. It's not quite going as deep as I like. So I'm just working here with, I believe, my 1/4 inch chisel and cleaning out the bottom, the corner. I'm not really hitting it with the hammer. I'm just kind of slicing in some areas, blowing out the air. I want it to get to sit all the way down. So I have it set so it's going to sit. Half the block is going to be in this part of the chair, and the other half is going to be in the other part of the chair. The block is sitting almost to the point where I want it, just not quite. What I'm going to do now is take out my die grinder and shape the block. I'm going to mark this end of the block so I know which end I'm going to cut, even though one will be pretty well shaped, the other one will be square. And I'm going to round the edges and shape the block so it'll go in a little bit deeper. The reason I'm doing that is I feel like the wood in this area is a little bit fragile. We saw that piece fall off earlier, and I don't want to keep drilling and chomping on that back part of the area there that I'm working. I'd rather shape the block in so I get a nice good fit. Right here we're looking, it's sitting right where I'm happy with it. I'm going to take my Sharpie, make a line on the block so I know how much epoxy to apply to the block. I apply epoxy both to the inside and outside of this. Right now I'm taking my Dremel and I'm cutting a few lines in the end of this board. The reason why I'm doing this is I want to create a little bit of teeth here so that when I do epoxy this leg back on after I have the tenon made, it's going to create a little bit of area where my epoxy is going to flow into and harden and give it a little bit more grab right there. Also increases the surface area that the epoxy has. I'm going to use a Mohawk epoxy paste to attach this tenon. The reason why I'm using a paste rather than a standard epoxy is it's going to hold the tenon in place while it dries much better. It's not going to move around. It also, when it's dry, the paste is going to be very solid and keep the tenon from wiggling. It's a good structural epoxy. I get it through the Mohawk company, and I will put the link below. And I like this particular one for this application because it sets up very quickly. It dries in about 10 minutes, which means I can set this tenon in there and I don't have to worry about it sliding out of position or moving. I can just more or less slide it into place, clean it off. The paste will keep it from shifting around too much. And once I have it set up, I'm just going to let it dry and just sit there for a few minutes and do some other work and keep my eyes on it. And that epoxy is going to lock it right into place after a few minutes. And then I'm just going to let it cure overnight just to make sure. But after about 15 minutes, I could actually continue on with this repair if I wanted to. So now you can see I'm just coming in with some denatured on a rag, cleaning off the excess epoxy. I don't want it on this part of the repair because I'm going to need to attach that with an adhesive later, and I don't want all those pores filled up. I want them able to grab in there also. But before I even do this repair at the end, the next part of the glue up, I'll probably go back and just sand this area just to make sure. Well, that does it for this part of the repair. We're going to let this dry and I'll continue to work on this chair. We do about 10 of these types of repairs a year. It's not common for tenons to break, but we are seeing more of them lately. So if you got a chair or a table or who knows, a piece where this is broken, this will probably save the piece and keep it from being trashed. Thanks so much for watching. This is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. If you can remember to like, share. If you have questions, put them in the comments. I will take a look and try to get back to you. Have a good day now.